youtube.com/simracecheck.
Jeg er godt nok træt af de her biler allerede.
Jeg kan godt lide dem.
Jeg kan ikke finde ud af dem. Jeg mangler det der hedder talent. Eller også har jeg bare glemt, hvor mange timer det tog mig at blive god i Ender Racers moddet. Det kan jeg ikke huske.
Der har nok også været nogle timer.
Ja, bare et par.
youtube.com/simracecheck.
So in here, most of this is going to be in Danish. A lot of the guys on Teamspeak are Danes, so can't really change that. There's going to be some testing of the URD LMP2 cars, which hopefully, or maybe I should say, they have proven a lot better than the Ender Racers cars, basically just because of the way that they allow you to make changes to the setup that are more kind of dramatic or more extreme than what the Ender Racers LMP2 cars allow. Game volume might still actually be a little bit loud. Just gonna have to open my mixer and change that. Also, maybe some of the guys on Teamspeak might be a little bit loud.
Michael, hvad går du på toppen i MX4?
If you
96-97.
Okay.
That's very loud. Actually. Try and keep those guys down.
Sådan en lille spænd, det kan skade.
Øj, hvor kan jeg blive træt af mig selv, mand.
Sorry about that. I just want to start my crew chief app. Thought there was an easier way to do it, but there's not. Actually got it downloaded and set up so that it actually works with voice recognition now. That way you have to download some kind of Google voice recognition app and then set it up. There's a whole list of commands that you can ask it for, and I can't remember the exact commands, so sometimes I have a bit of trouble there. And change to the garage view so the chat isn't interfering with the setup. So, start that.
Radio check.
I hear you loud and clear. Maybe that's also quite
Jamen, vi
loud.
ses.
Det gør vi i hvert fald. Kan I hygge?
I lige måde.
Tak. Hej.
Let's put up the keyboard, attach the wheel, and let's get going. Try and race some laps. Try not to get tangled. In the different wires going across. Now, this is actually also a bit of an experiment. Does it work trying to attach the wheel? Apparently that works fine. So let's I need to do some I need to do some hotkey thing here. So bear with me.
YouTube.com/simracecheck.
Nu gider jeg fandme heller ikke mere.
So that should be in the race view. And set up for racing. That's good. Because it actually is.
Jeg vil hoppe af, vi ses.
Pit exit's clear.
Let's see if this one
Your brakes are cold, be careful.
annoying lag issues from the other day. So these are the annoying gears from the wrong kind of setup, so that's actually not very nice. And there's very, very little grip on the track today. That's actually pretty horrible. And for reasons unknown, the game isn't running nearly as smooth as it used to. There's actually a bit of delay here. Quite a bit. Wow, that's a bad log up. Sorry about that.
It's just a scratch, ignore it.
Ah, that's from hitting the cones. You now actually get damage from that. That's pretty nice. time for this car to build up heat in the front wheels, so until it gets to proper heat level, it actually understeers quite a lot, but now it seems fine, except for the lag in the game that I have right now, which is kind of weird. I think that was second gear corner. Not really used to these gears. Not at all. This is actually one of the better setups that I've ever driven in one of the better cars. Not only does it look better in here in the cockpit, but it just drives so nice. Like a car now that you can really push hard without too much happening. There's still though the brake issue. It's kind of hard to figure out when it's not in the front tires and when it's not. A little bit of luck in there again, not enough to flash, but create a lot of smoke there. Would be nice to have that map to a button to kind of reduce brake pressure for the car. I guess you should. Yeah, I already lowered the engine sounds actually quite a bit. It's only at like, I think 5% or something, but just 2 seconds, I'll try and look into it again. Just need a lap time for this lap. Followed the racing the other night in the Ender Racers cars, and then you see this car and how it behaves through the Porsche curves, you can immediately see that this is a much better handling car. Much. It's just a world of difference. But still it's like 3 seconds slower, even though the car's handling much better. So
your rear brakes are starting to overheat.
It's definitely the top speed issue. Maybe I should also check my microphone. See, that was actually turned all the way up. Oh, what? There we go. That should help a lot. So, actually the only thing I wanted to change right now was actually the gears. And then I want to check if it works. Yeah, it works fine with the nice garage setup here, moving the chat over so you guys can see what's going on in the setup here. First gear, I would say I usually have that as the gear for the exit of Mulsanne and Terre Rouge, and I would set that at around 120-130 kilometers per hour. Fourth gear needs to be a little bit like significantly longer, and then if you move third and second accordingly. Want to space the higher gears a little bit closer. I think that's it. I think we should try and save this and go for another lap.
YouTube.com/SimRaceCheck.
Hey, thanks for Mr. H has subscribed on YouTube. Thanks for subscribing, man. That's nice. Always nice with some new followers. So welcome to the channel, Mr. H. There's a little bit of error there with the overlay in black color and stuff. Everything's not kind of perfectly set up yet, but I'll get there eventually. Meanwhile, I need to shut down a lot of stuff here. Try and see if that doesn't help with the lagging issues. So I had a Chrome window running, and that just seems to swallow resources like you wouldn't believe. And why do I have my Discord open while I'm streaming? Can't use that anyway. Let's try it again. A little bit better now. Actually, a lot better. that was Chrome eating away at resources. So good we got that turned down.
Disengage limiter. Exit's clear. Push. Your brakes are cold. Let's get some heat to them.
Engine volume is a bit better now because I actually about halved it since. Maybe it doesn't help like running R-Factor 2 on triple screen resolution with the graphics at the absolute.
Your tyres are cold, watch out.
$16 times AA, 16 times AF, so everything is turned up to the max. And now I can't see the chat window, so let's fix that while going down the Mulsanne straight. No problem. This is the URD LMP2, or I think it's called LMP2 something. There's only one car in the pack. So this would compare to the Enduracers LMP2 cars. And then if you look at the dash, you can already see that the top speed of this is a bit lower. But I guess the cornering should be somewhat faster. Or actually the top speed is about the same, isn't it? Like 305 something in the Enduracers cars. I don't know, this feels much more drivable, and it feels much more planted on the road. That might just be the setup, but I've used a lot of times in setup for the Ender Racers, LMP cars, LMP2 cars, compared to this one. This one I hadn't really used that much time, so it should actually be comparable. But this just feels so... It's radically much more better. You can't even... You wouldn't say it's the same class of car. It's just much better this. Too much speed. So the thing about Indianapolis is you can carry a lot
Yellow
of
flag in
speed
sector
through
3.
the first kink, but it might just come back and bite you in the ass when you're trying to brake down to Indianapolis, because you just, if the brakes aren't strong enough, you can't.
Green flag
You
sector
just
3.
can't get enough speed out of the car in that short a distance. So you might think it's a good idea to kind of attack the kink like I just tried, but then you can't.
You're locking your fronts
Then you
into
can't brake the car
Arnage.
fast enough. And now I picked up a little bit flat spotting, but hey. Let's see how the new gears will do. So should be able to stay like full throttle. Oh, won't with that. Should be able to stay in 4th gear all the way around this. And if you can that, you can actually just concentrate on steering and just keeping the proper line, and it seems to be well balanced now. Should take this in 3rd and then go down to 1st for the turn in here. Keep up some good speed. That's actually, I think that's pretty good. Second gear for the Dunlop chicane. Back on the power. And then I should do 2nd gear down here now. Kind of keep the engine braking high in 2nd gear so that when I release the throttle, the car will steer better. Then 3rd gear. Through tread rouge. Keep it on track.
Sector 1 time's okay.
That's a cut track.
Peter. Track limits, come on. This lap will be deleted.
Want to keep the engine revs quite high when I'm off throttle to kind of move the weight forward in the car, because that'll make the car steer into the corner a lot better, and then I can always deal with the, well, if it has any oversteer, I can always deal with that afterwards when I'm getting back on the throttle. So that was horrible. Line braking way too late and a bad turn in. So just from driving the Ender Racers LMP2 car, I just have to kind of climatize to this car, so it'll take me just a bit. Figuring out the brake zones and other stuff for this car. It's different. It's not the same. So I hope volume is okay now. I hope you can hear what I'm saying.
Brake temperatures are
So
pretty
I
high.
got the chat running here, so if you got any questions, you're more than welcome to ask me about kind of anything like setup related or anything you want to know. I'll get into like all the nerdy details that you might want to ask about. Definitely need to reduce the Definitely need to reduce the brake pressure just a little bit. That could be way better. But like I said, any questions, anything you want, like Motec related stuff, telemetry related stuff, handling, setup, whatever you want to ask, just ask it. Wow, that's quick. Not scrubbing off enough speed here. I really want the car to kind of scrub up its the necessary speed going through that, the long right hander there. Don't really want to use the brakes. If the car can scrub up the speed by itself, it means I'm just rolling through that corner, and that'll just give the overall best lap time. So that was a cut track lap, so we're not going to get a lap time for that due to the little incident in Tet Rouge. Let's try and carry as much speed out of this as possible. Just at the apex already on full throttle. Let's try not to mess this up. When you get near the border like that, the cut track in rFactor 2, the cut track algorithm is looking at how much throttle you're using. So if you use just less throttle, then you won't get a cut track, but you can still carry an enormous amount of speed through a corner like that, and maybe cut the outside or inside just a little bit, as long as you're not on the throttle. That was quick. That was actually pretty good. Yeah, I really don't want the rear tires to wear fastest because if they do, it'll kind of create more and more oversteer as you progress through a stint. The car's going to be more and more dangerous to run, so I would prefer balanced wear or maybe just using the front tires just a little bit more. You can always use like playing with the brake balance to kind of have the car just using slightly more front tires than rear tires. Because then the car will just progressively start to like
your tyre temperatures look good.
A little bit through the stint.
Your brake temperatures look good.
And that's just a lot easier to control than having a car that's starting to oversteer. Also, when you're losing weight because you're reducing the fuel, the mass of the fuel on board, that slight understeer is going to matter like less than a bit of oversteer will, because a bit of oversteer will just like corners like through this kink and then braking as early as you can after. This can kill you if the car starts to understeer through that. And because the laps are so long around Le Mans, the car will behave completely different the next time you arrive at a corner like that. So you can't really be prepared for how the car handles every lap through that. So that's kind of dangerous. And if you want to drive like long endurance races, 24-hour races, stuff like that, being able to avoid incidents, that's paramount. You can be as quick as you want, but if you end up in the fence, it doesn't really matter. I have to use the brakes here. Dang it, didn't want to. Ah, too late on the turn in there, bad. I think it was not horrible, but just a little bit bad. Sorry, I'll get to the question when I'm through the curves here. What I think about always having the rebound stiffer than a bump on the dampers. Actually, I usually go the other way around. I usually go the other way around, but it depends on what I want the car to do in corners. Because my policy is to try and make the car understeer when you're on bumps. And that is a technique that I picked up already back when I was doing Sports Car GT. And we're driving with keyboards. Whoa. Ah! Wheel has not functioning, can't brake.
Watch those track limits.
Something's
Yellow flag in sector 1.
Cut off or disconnected. Anyway, let's talk about, while the car's acting up like this, let's talk about the bumps and stuff like that. That is a particular technique that I picked up already back driving the keyboard way back in the early or late 90s, early zeros, back when Sports Car GT was kind of a big thing. Because when you drove the keyboard, it was kind of paramount that the car was understeering, and especially that it was understeering on the bumps. And I found that that's pretty nice. So the way I got it, I usually have it set up, is to make sure that the rebound speed of the rear tires, so the way that the rear tires regains, or the speed that the rear tires regain grip after a bump, is faster than the front. So usually I would have the fast rebound set higher than the fast bump in the rear. So this makes the wheel doesn't want to come back to the ground when it's pushed up. It's pushed up quite easily, since you can see the fast bump here is on 2. I want to change that so you can actually see better. There we go. The rebound here is actually set higher in the rear to make the rear tire come back slower, because that's kind of the geometry of this car. But usually it's the other way around. I would usually, this is just from checking the bell curves and everything on in Motec that I have this adjustment. Usually I can show you what I do, and I can explain it while I do it. Usually I would make the rebound of the front tires really high. I would make the bump equally high. That'll make the entire front of the car, if you put the fast rebound high, that'll make the entire front of the car lift up when you hit a bump. It's not going to be absorbed just by the suspension. So that's going to, if we say this is the wheel and this is the front overhang of the car, then having more resistance for this to go up will lift the entire car up. That's, if you get that. So having it set lower in the rear is gonna make it easier to push the tire up, and having the rebound set lower is gonna make the tire easily to come down and gain grip again. So basically, the higher dampening you got, the less grip you're gonna get on bumpy surfaces. And you can use that to control the balance of the car in corners on rough surfaces. So I want the car to, because the grip is changing a lot when you're on a rough surface, I always want the car to lose the most grip in the front end. So this doesn't always work. You can see the way that I had the car set up here. I'll just try and load. I think this setup is one that I drove a couple of weeks ago. Now you can see here that this is radically different from the one that I just had loaded. This has way different bump settings. This is more like I would usually do. So it's higher on the rebound in the front, lower in the back, creates understeer on the curbs. And on Le Mans, the way you attack the Ford chicanes, it's paramount to keep the car under control there and not slide out, and it does that really easily. So yeah. Yeah, well, it's not a black art. It's not as hard to understand as you would think. So slow bumps and slow rebounds basically control the way that weight is transferring around in the car when you're turning or braking or accelerating. So kind of in your head, like picture the car. So let's say this is the rear end, this is the front end of the car. When you're accelerating, the car will slide back because the chassis wants to the chassis wants to not. That's because of inertia. It just doesn't want to accelerate, so it'll kind of stay as much as it can. Try and stay as much as it can in the same place, so that'll tilt the car backwards. What resists this movement as the back end of the car goes down is the slow bump, and what keeps the tires on the ground in the front end, that is the slow rebound. So if you got a lot of resistance to slow rebound in the front, then when you accelerate, the front tires is going to lift up off the tarmac and get less grip. Or you could say the contact patch on the front tires is going to get less because much more weight is going to be moved backwards in the car, and the front tires doesn't want to go down. So if you want to create understeer when you accelerate a car, you want low slow bump settings in the back and low slow rebound settings in the front. Now you can translate that directly the opposite way when you're trying to brake and the car wants to tilt forward because of it. Everything just want to keep the same speed and energy as it has. So when the car brakes, balance point move forward. What resists this movement is the slow bump in the front. So if you get a high slow bump in the front, that will resist this movement and keep more traction on the rear wheels. And if at the same time you have a low slow rebound in the back, that's going to keep the rear tires on the ground, allowing you to move the brake bias further back. But actually, as you can see, this kind of speaks against what's happening when you accelerate the car. So this is directly the opposite of what's happening when you accelerate the car. So those two things are always going to be like battling each other. And then apart from just the springs, you can always control how the car reacts to input changes on the steering wheel, because that depends on how fast the car tilts to each side. And you can obviously control the amount of grip that goes to each tire when you like turn in or exit a corner by adjusting the front, by the difference in adjustment on the front and rear bump or slow bump settings also. Fast bump and fast rebound basically only comes into play when you're hitting like curbs or rough surfaces, like very bumpy road. So that's the point when you need to adjust those. I hope that explains just a little bit more. I think my wheel has come entirely offline. I think it kind of overheated and didn't start its cooling. Somehow it's cooling, it's not started. Don't know why. But the motor here is quite hot. I actually had to, this is this is my Thrustmaster T500, and it's kind of like you would do on a CPU. It's delidded because I had to see what was going on, and I might have to install some kind of static cooling on this that just gets the temperature down. There's somewhere on the print here behind is some kind of heat thing that it uses to monitor the heat on that motor there, and it's just getting too hot. So I have to do something about that. Also had earlier videos, if people have the T500, there's I can take off the wheel and then I can show you again, because that might also be useful information to some of you out there. There are on the wheel here, there's two adjustment screws here that control small rollers that go in and tighten up the belt. So you can loosen this, push down on this roller thing here and tighten it again. Do the same thing down here and basically just tighten it as much as you can, and that'll just make the wheel feel like all the kind of little sloppiness and like it felt a little bit loose before, and now it's just way tight and very, very precise. So the force feedback feels like it's twice as high fidelity as it was before. So I recommend checking those and making sure they're all tightened up. I was considering, because there's two belts, there's one going from the motor here down to a reduction gear and then back to the wheel. I was considering this one is actually quite loose, and I might try to make something homemade that could keep this could keep this tight as well. But that's it for me for tonight, because I don't think this wheel is going to come online again. So basically, just a few laps on Le Mans, looking at the setups for the URD LMP2 cars, and kind of getting my comments on how that compared. And then answering some questions from you guys, and thanks to Peter May for subscribing. Oh, that's loud! Thanks, Peter No, for subscribing on YouTube. Always nice to have new followers. I'm gonna try and get back into doing some more sim racing stuff on the Sim Race Tech channel. Yeah, video's gonna be public. It's always. Everything I stream is made public, so you can just go back and find that anytime you want. Yeah, number 666. I noticed that a few guys left yesterday, because when I started it was at 667, and then a couple of guys kind of left, and then was at, I think today when I started it was at 664, and now a couple of guys subscribed tonight while streaming here, so that's pretty nice. So now we're back at 666. The monster. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll be back later this week. Yeah, okay. Christos has one last question. Kind of waiting for Christos to type now. Aston Martin and Indy racers and have trouble with the front inside wheel lug-ups during trail braking. Yeah, you'll have that on that car. That car is notorious for having problems with the trail braking. The team DTL drove that Aston Martin at the GTR 24H last year and had exactly the same problem. And we kind of worked a lot on trying to move the brake balance around in the car and just fiddling with the suspension. And we actually came up with quite a good solution. I can't remember exactly what we did. I can't load the setup now because I'm not on a server with the Indy Racers cars, but I kind of could join one and show you, but that'll be tomorrow night. I'm going to be racing the same cars. I'm going to be racing this LMP2 car. Going to be doing that with the guys. I think some of the Innotech guys here on this server is going to be there, and Team RC. I don't know how many other people is going to come join that server, but I will, if you want to, I will provide the password for that server tomorrow night. It's practice is going to start somewhere around 7:30 p.m. Central European time. That's 19:30. So if you want to come join us, just do. And we're on a Teamspeak server too. I'll provide all those details if I get permission from the guys that run the server. Those are the URD GT cars and the URD LMP1 and LMP2 cars. So that's not Indy Racers. But currently, the GTR 24H open server is running the Indy Racers cars, and I'll make a promise. Sunday night at around, let's say 2100, I will be on the GTR 24H open server in an Aston Martin, and we can check out what you can do to the setup to cure the whole inside and lug up a thing on that car, because I think we had a pretty good solution on that setup. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. I am actually gonna go now. Like you see down here, Facebook already probably found me there. There's also the YouTube channel where this video is going to be made public. Also on Facebook it's going to be public. And then there is the Twitch Sim Race Tech channel. Join, follow, everything to get the updates when I'm streaming, because it's not always... I'm not into the whole scheduled thing yet, because it's just not serious enough yet. Hopefully it will be. But join on those channels and follow to get notified when I am live streaming. Most of this is going to be live streaming and answering questions. See ya!
YouTube.com/SimRaceCheck.